Right, so here we are again, and this is actually kind of sort of like my backyard, and it's proof that I'm not on the couch all day, that I actually do get out and enjoy the beautiful state of my new home, Colorado, and I'm trying to get as much of it in as possible before it actually starts to snow. Where were we last time? So I think last time I had this quarter life crisis, right? And I decided to take up a long distance running. And I recall like one of the moments where I'm like, that is it, I'm done with this. I think firstly, I had reached a certain standard with running that I was like, okay, I'm good enough, like I'm satisfied. And I never broke the 5-minute mile, but I was able to get, I think it was like 2 miles in like 10:20, and I'm like, oh, that's good enough. But I was never quite one, it just never came naturally to me. And I felt like if I cruised for 3 weeks, or just like didn't keep up with a certain amount of running, that I would just lose it really quick. But I remember one day in particular, I was actually playing a pickup football game with friends, and for the first time in my life, I was never the biggest kid growing up, but I was like being thrown around all over the field. So I felt like a rag doll. And then the big kicker was that even though I was like in this great, or at least great for me, shape when it came to running for a very long time, when it came to the whole, like, I guess the energy systems that football requires, which kind of sort of, not quite, but they resemble weightlifting a lot more than just running endlessly. I was getting winded and tired, and it was just beating me up. And I'm like, you know what, this is it. We're going back to what we love and what we are naturally just a little bit better at. So I just dropped running cold turkey, and then I went on my first official like bulk seafood diet. And I went basically from about, I'd say I was definitely under 130 pounds, up to about 165, about 165 to 170. And here's the picture right here. And then, that was okay. Like I definitely put on a little bit of fat, but I decided to keep going. And this is the next picture at about 190. All this within, I'd say, maybe a nine month span. So I put on weight right away, and I remember that basically the way my diet worked, it was the tuna diet. Everyone's done the tuna. And then I also did a lot of potato and macaroni salad. I remember I would buy a crap ton of Krispy Kreme donuts specifically, roll them up into little balls, eat those. Sometimes I would melt ice cream, but I was in a rush to gain weight. And it was not necessarily the best way of going about it, looking back now, but it definitely got me going in the right direction. At least it got me out of that endurance rut that I was in. So yeah, finally at age, I think at this point I'm about 20-ish or so, I decided that, you know what, I want to lift weights. And then also at this point, that bulk actually had purpose. I was going to bulk up, and then throughout that year, and then actually compete the very next year. So we actually had direction, and I think right around this time is when I discovered the bodybuilding.com message boards, where I met a lot of guys, like a lot of people I still know to this day. Blaine Norton, Eric Helms. I met him on those message board forums. But yeah, I ended up I picked up another sport, and this time it was competitive bodybuilding. At that point, at least I was heading in that direction, and I started my first phase, which was the bulk, on my way to what I thought was a stage at the time. So yeah, that's what happened. At age 20, I decided, done with this, I'm going to start bodybuilding. And basically from that point on, I guess you could say I was I was a bodybuilder. Yeah, so from that point on, we're finally a bodybuilder. Yeah, that was about 12 years ago. I'll leave it here, and let's get with this week's footage. Random naked guy in your screen. So this is about where I am at right now in regards to what my back and hamstrings look like. This is what I need the most of this off season. So we will really start gunning it these next few months. A big hip hinge movement such as this right here, the snatch, grip, deadlift. We're putting those in and slowly building those up. But just in general, we are going to basically do a lot less of the things that we're good at and a lot more of the things that we need a lot more of. So basically what I'm going to do is bring down movements that target regions where, you know, I'm either pretty set in or at least they're not an obvious weak body part right now, and take that to what I think is going to be the bare minimum, meaning enough to just kind of maintain what I have, not necessarily progress, but hang on to what I do have, you know, there. So things like, for example, my shoulders are okay, my quads are pretty good. Things like that we're going to do a little bit less of, so that, you know, again, we have limited resources here. There's only so much recovery to go around, and that this way it these weaker body parts get to benefit from it. So I'm throwing in weighted neutral grip chin-ups, and this is one of those times where I'm so glad I videotape movements, because look at the bottom position versus the bottom position here on my plus set, or my as many reps as possible set. I was missing just a little bit. So again, the whole videotaping, it's definitely, I do it because that way I can, you know, keep up with this here, but also it's just one of the most useful tools in the gym, in my opinion. It keeps you honest to make sure that, you know, as you progress in weight, that you don't regress or alter form. So again, a lot of heavy rowing per usual. That funny looking seal row thing, we're going to continue doing a lot of those. The main difference is the addition of weighted chin-ups. And of course, you know, between the snatch, grip, deadlift, that's going to be my primary hip hinge movement, and the glute ham raise, we're trying to bring up a posterior chain that makes sense on stage. Really getting good at these, much better at these, in fact. But one of the reasons that, again, I'm trying to squat again as well. But one of the reasons that I've included the snatch, grip, deadlift, and hopefully I can start making squats a bigger part of my program, is because, you know, quite frequently I find myself on the road, and when I do, it's really hard to, you know, find specific machines that you are using to progress with while you're out and about. But you know, a barbell movement's going to be the same basically anywhere. So that's one of my incentives to, you know, at least do something with that squat. And then also I want to power lift, because all my friends do, and it's just something I enjoy doing, even though I don't necessarily excel at powerlifting. So again, just overall great training week. This is just kind of filler footage to kind of close in how this week went. In general, I'm really happy with where I am this off season. I am currently about I'd say about 15-ish pounds away from what would be a good look on stage, and this is the best it's ever looked. You know, even though I've had to work around things and, you know, do things like, this is the most leg pressing I've ever done in my life. But, you know, again, that's kind of the thing with, I guess, and I'll leave it here, is that, you know, quite frequently people will clown on bro splits, not bro splits, but certain movements that they at one point probably did as they were running a bro split. And, you know, again, I think when it comes to movements as a bodybuilder, you have a lot more choices in regards to what you can pick. The main reason I think that for a lot of us, our bro splits didn't necessarily work as well as perhaps once we started including heavy barbell work, you know, powerlifting inspired work, power building work, if you may, is because when we were doing a lot of those bro type training routines, we weren't as progressive or as skilled at creating programs that were going to create progress. And again, progress is basically not lifting the same weight over an extended period of time. You know, adding weight to the bar, or in this case, my hammer strength isolateral leg press machine. But yeah, this was actually a PR, by the way, in regards to sets of 15. So I was really, it felt a lot worse than it looks. I literally thought I was losing my shit on camera, but It turns out it wasn't too bad. But yeah, great training week. We're healthy, we're progressing, and I'm really, really excited about this next specialization block because so far it's worked. But what if we, you know, just work, I guess, a little bit smarter, a little bit harder, and in a way that I think makes sense, just prioritizing those areas. So I'll leave it there. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Really, really appreciate it.